Tonight, the fallout over an AFL coach's bitter spray. Luke Beveridge forced to apologise.
I want to apologise for my behaviour. I want to apologise to Tom Morris.
And the journalist at the centre of the row in a shock twist. Also, a troubled football star sent to jail for a history of cruel attacks on his former partner. Russia bombs a civilian shelter in Ukraine's deadliest day. A push for new mask rules as COVID case numbers surge again. And the MCG says sorry to fans as the Blues take on the Tigers, the latest live from inside the G.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening, and there's breaking news tonight in the fallout over an AFL coach's bitter tirade. Western Bulldogs coach Luke Beveridge has just issued an apology over a post-match broadside aimed at a football journalist. And the reporter at the centre of the row has just been stood down.
Luke Beveridge admits he crossed the line.
I want to apologise for my behaviour. I want to apologise to Tom Morris.
The Bulldogs coach backtracking on last night's furious tirade.
You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
That's hijacked the start of the new AFL season.
Your gutter journalism at the moment is killing us and behind the scenes. This is why the health and well-being of people in the game is caught up in all this stuff.
Beveridge was in attack mode, taking aim at a TV reporter for revealing top-secret selection information before the club.
You've got the nerve to ask me a question and even be here. So you've been preying on us the last two times. You barracked for Melbourne, Tom Morris. Been preying on us. You've been opening us up, causing turmoil within our football club by declaring our team well before it needs to be declared. Is that the way Fox want you to operate?
Yeah,
is that what you're doing? Is that the gutter journalist you want to be?
No.
Is that who you want to be?
If you let me answer,
right?
Luke.
So,
I was sitting back here. I had to get told to pick up the mic. I just could not believe what I was seeing.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're proud of yourself?
Yeah, Fox backs me.
Wow.
And to be honest,
no, that's enough. That's enough. Next question, please. Next question, mate. You're not welcome. Right?
No, this is the AFL's press conference, and I'll
It's
sit
what?
here.
It's
the
what,
AFL's
sorry?
press conference.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think you got enough, boys and girls. I think we're probably done, aren't we?
I think it should be a six-figure fine myself. But I think Luke Beveridge needs to look at whether he's equipped to coach. I mean, what we saw last night was a man unravelling. So I don't think he's equipped to be looking after the futures of 30 young men, quite frankly.
Pride myself on being measured and thoughtful. However, on this occasion, I clearly didn't handle it the way I should have, and I understand and accept that.
Kevin Sheedy calling on Beveridge to find the club's staffer who leaked the information.
Good coaches find them and get them out of the place. Loose lips sink ships.
Now, Luke Beveridge has avoided any individual sanction from the AFL over those comments last night. The AFL just released a statement a short time ago acknowledging his conduct last night wasn't acceptable, but he has apologised and taken responsibility for his actions. The club, however, has made a $20,000 donation to a mental health charity.
Well, thank you. And there's been a shock twist involving the reporter at the centre of the scandal. Blake Johnson, he's been stood down by his employer.
Over an unrelated matter, Peter, Fox Sports said is investigating what it calls an inappropriate audio recording, and Tom Morris has been stood down pending that investigation. 7 News has heard the alleged recording today, which surfaced on and went viral on social media, in which a male says derogatory things about a gay female colleague. In a statement, Fox Sports says it is committed to a workplace where everyone feels safe, respected and valued. The company will not comment further. The recording appears to be from a private group chat between friends. Peter?
Blake Johnson reporting. Thank you. Former AFL star Andrew Lovett has been sent to jail for waging a terrifying campaign of abuse on his ex-partner. Lovett punched, kicked and spat on his victim, leaving her with lifelong trauma.
Andrew Lovett's aggression earned him praise on the football field.
Is Andrew Lovett of the Essendon Football Club.
But made him a monster behind closed doors. The former AFL star was today sentenced to 8 months in prison for what a magistrate called terrifying, ongoing, aggravated physical violence. The court heard Lovett's relationship with his ex-partner began as a fairy tale, but quickly turned to a horror story. Lovett terrorising the policewoman in 14 violent assaults. A court hearing on separate occasions, he kicked and punched her, choked her until she lost consciousness, spat in her face and poured beer over her. In one of Lovett's most sickening attacks, he ambushed his partner in the shower and punched her in the head. She fell, hitting the shower screen, but Lovett continued, kicking her in the stomach as she lost consciousness. In a victim impact statement, the now 36-year-old spoke of her ongoing emotional trauma. He broke me in every single way when he took his mask off and revealed his true self. Today, the magistrate accepted Lovett was remorseful to a degree, but pointed to comments Lovett had made recently about how he felt he was forced to plead guilty and that the victim had her part to play. He's already served 100 days in jail. Estelle Griepink, 7 News.
Overseas now, and Russia is being accused of committing the worst atrocity of the Ukraine war so far. Troops bombed a theatre where more than 1,000 civilians were sheltering in an attack that's been labelled a war crime.
A theatre sheltering civilians. Ukraine says as many as 1,200 were there when Russia dropped a bomb. This was inside merely days ago. Trapped families with no way out, hiding in the building, even branding their desperation to the sky. These words say children, a human plea to spare them. Instead, mass slaughter. The Red Cross has called Mariupol apocalyptic. And an Associated Press news crew risked everything to show that might just be true. The battle to save lives while fearing your own. A father lost in grief over the body of his 16-year-old son, Ilya. Killed by an explosion as he played soccer on a school field. Bodies line basements in Mariupol's only hospital left standing. Women take shelter on a floor. Above ground, every simple act, charging phones, a life and death choice. Ukraine says in this city, 10 people were gunned down by Russian troops. They were simply standing in line for bread. Sights of devastation, so completely and utterly overwhelming. This doctor can do nothing but leave a note on a dead newborn girl. Her family name and lifespan, 23 days, 20 hours. Genocide, she called it. The US president had his own verbal escalation.
Mr. President, after everything we've seen, are you ready to call Putin a war criminal?
No. Oh, I think he is a war criminal.
Will you be meeting with him?
And before America's Congress, Ukraine's president said it was like September 11 and Pearl Harbor for 3 weeks daily.
Innocent people were attacked from air. Our country experienced the same every day.
Renewing his plea for a no-fly zone to end Putin's war. On the ground, peace doesn't seem possible, but Russia's foreign minister now says it could be in sight. Claiming there are concrete proposals close to agreement. Talk of Ukraine taking neutral status, similar to countries like Austria and Sweden. On Russian TV, Vladimir Putin was talking to traitors.
And will spit them out like a gnat that accidentally flew into their mouths.
He says this isn't about occupation. So is it obliteration? All night, artillery exchange again in the capital. Many residents either huddled in shelters or locked down in their homes. This family prepared weeks ago. The windows taped, they've adapted to war. Uni via Zoom, just like with COVID. But warfare is a very different virus.
How do you feel about it?
This is scary.
The day starts by messaging friends, but it's not the normal message.
Every my day starting with I ask them if they're all of them alive, and all of them is okay.
The destruction of Kyiv has pushed them beyond sorrow.
Not crying. I'm only angry.
And frustrated, their pleas aren't answered.
Yes, we are trying to be a part of European Union. We are trying to show that we deserve it. Yes, guys, maybe you don't deserve us. We are brave, we are suffering, we are dying. We have to be begging for 20 days to give that airplanes.
The whole city shut down, highways and streets deserted.
Kyiv city officials have effectively ruled there are only two reasons to be outside during this curfew. The first is to be protecting your city like this. The second is to be running for a bomb shelter. But they haven't detailed why.
One theory, to stop Russian agents roaming Kyiv, potentially putting targets on buildings for missiles to strike. In besieged Mariupol, these are the lucky ones. 20,000 have now managed to escape. A private Red Cross convoy, trying not to look back.
A horrifying situation indeed, and Chris Reason is live in Kyiv once again, where, Chris, that 35-hour curfew has just been lifted.
Yeah, good evening to you, Peter. An hour ago, well, I'll tell you what, the movement of people might have been stopped for 35 hours, but not the movement of missiles. They've been raining down all night and this morning. This is the latest one. It struck 3-4 hours ago, 5:02 a.m. local time in the southeast section of the city. A residential tower. What you can't see is the kindergarten behind it that's also been taken out. The toll, one person dead, 4 injured, 30 evacuated. We still don't know yet the exact toll on that Mariupol theatre bombing. We're waiting for that. It'll be bad news. Overnight, US President Joe Biden committed $800 million worth of military aid for this country, but it's not what they want, Pete. President Zelensky demanding that no-fly zone be instituted to stop things like Mariupol and this happening again. Peter?
Chris Reason in Kyiv, please take care and thank you. Rising COVID case numbers have dashed any hope of a mask reprieve for retail and hospitality workers. Business leaders are demanding the mandate be scrapped, but the Premier isn't budging.
Hospitality and retail workers haven't been allowed to unmask for months.
I think like anyone that has to wear it for a long period of time, we're probably a bit over it. We understand why.
As Melbourne's events calendar revs up, business groups have renewed their push to scrap the rule.
You have this situation where they finish their shift, take off their apron, walk out, walk back into the same environment and can sit down or walk through a retail environment without having to have a mask on.
We do believe it would make an enormous difference to retaining staff but also attracting staff back.
The change would bring Victoria into line with New South Wales and Queensland, but some experts say masks should stay as we head towards another Omicron peak, with the more infectious Omicron subvariant now the dominant strain.
Reducing the protections that service workers have at a time where cases in the community, their risk of exposure is increasing, makes no sense. This is in its face an occupational health and safety issue.
The state government has no health advice to make a change.
Let's be a bit more positive, shall we? We've had 2 terrible years. We find ourselves in a much better set of circumstances now.
Victoria's cases have doubled in a week and continue to climb. 9,752 cases and 7 deaths. Some experts believe that more restrictions will at least be recommended to the state government as cases rise in winter, including the reintroduction of density limits in hospitality.
There's a lot of work going on to do everything we can for those colder months.
Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
2 police officers have been taken to hospital after a car rear-ended their 4-wheel drive in Geelong. They were sitting inside the vehicle just after 10 o'clock this morning when a 54-year-old man crashed into them. He was also taken to hospital. A female officer suffered facial injuries while the male officer injured his back in the crash. The MCG has apologised to footy fans after major delays during last night's season opener. Nick McCallum has the fallout, and Nick, it's take 2 tonight.
Well, Peter, last night's crowd for the Melbourne Western Bulldogs game was disappointing, just 58,000. But AFL officials hope to get more than 80,000 here tonight for Carlton versus Richmond. As you mentioned, they face long delays and long queues to get food and drink. There's a nationwide hospitality staff shortage, and the MCG, of course, is not exempt from that. It was so bad last night, the club felt the need to say sorry to patrons. They're the traditional season opener powerhouses. But Tigers and Blues face big delays for pies and beer.
Heard there's not going to be any chips apparently, so a bit disappointing, but no, I've got some chocolates in the bag.
Lots of hospitality staff out, so I think they actually did a great job.
I'm not here for food and drink, I'm here for the game.
Last night, huge queues at food outlets and bars, triggering an apology. The MCC is struggling with staffing shortages. We understand the frustration that this causes. They're 400 workers short, forcing some outlets to close altogether. It's a nationwide issue.
We have one of the worst workforce shortages in the history of Australia.
Reports of customers abusing staff.
We just need to have a more hospitable environment from patrons to ensure that those hospitality workers don't just throw their hands up and walk out.
Also frustrating, the last-minute cancellation of the fireworks. Fire Rescue Victoria flagged a potential fire risk. It's believed because of MCG roof cladding. In 2019, suspect cladding was removed here. Since then, no problems with fireworks during the recent BBL season. Industry leader Rusty Johnson confused as to why suddenly it's an issue.
I thought the cladding issue, if that's what it was, had sort of sorted itself out. It's another blow to the industry to have something cancelled at the last minute.
But for these fans arriving from Sydney on a special footy flight, the hope is to boost tonight's crowd beyond 80,000.
It's just good to be back at the footy, you know, it's been a while and I'm just really excited.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
And we head inside the MCG now. Tim Watson, there's plenty of other selection news around the league for the rest of round one.
That's right, Mitch. The teams have dropped and we've got exclusive first look at the teams. Chief football reporter Tommy Brown is on the boundary tonight. And Tom, the Bombers have made a call on Jake Stringer.
Tim, Stringer unfortunately didn't get up for the Bombers. I'll get to that shortly. But on tonight, some big selection news. Grimes and Nankervis both ready to go post-thumb surgery and post-COVID isolation. That's the Blues behind me as we speak in their huddle. Charlie Curnow, despite some rumours, definitely right to go tonight as well. Considering other teams, as I mentioned, Stringer not ready. Also no Francis. Jason Horne-Francis will make his much-anticipated debut for North. Ward and McDonald will debut for the Hawks. No Ryder or Hanbury for the injury-ravaged Saints ahead of tomorrow night against Collingwood, who have named Howe, Adams, Lipinski and Quaynor. Tim, great pictures from inside the MCG. I'll be back with lots more shortly in sport.
Look forward to that. Thanks, Tom. We'll speak to you again soon. Also coming up shortly, hear from injured Demon star Christian Salem, and Gil McLaughlin's warning ahead of Buddy's special milestone. Mitch will be back with the final word from both the Tigers and the Blues. See you again soon.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Tim. There has been a moving farewell for Australian cricket legend Rod Marsh. Next, the touching tributes from sporting greats. Also, thousands of workers wanted a massive recruiting drive to finish a multi-billion-dollar project. Tempers run hot as Labor faces Mean Girls accusations. And later, what world unrest is doing to our superannuation? The word from the experts. A man's been taken to hospital in a critical condition after a garage burst into flames northwest of Melbourne. 23 firefighters took 20 minutes to bring the blaze at Kurrajang under control. The patient is now listed as stable. A recruiting blitz is underway to hire thousands of workers needed to complete the biggest road project in Victoria's history. But there are already doubts the jobs can be filled amid the looming workforce shortage.
a call to arms for an $11 billion project.
We are hiring.
A recruitment drive for the North East Link to fill 10,000 positions.
There's there's a few hundred, I think, right now. But that will build over time.
I think it's a really sensible move from the government, given the scale of investment required across the East Coast in infrastructure.
But there are concerns of a looming worker shortage. Over the next 2 years, the infrastructure sector will need to grow its workforce by more than 40% to keep up with the boom. Road projects need the most staff, a 70% increase by 2024.
So we're not encountering those issues, but it's not to say it's easy to recruit the sheer numbers of staff that we need.
I think the danger is actually just driving up the costs of delivering infrastructure, which means you're going to have to get lots of boots on the ground over the next 5 years to deliver this stuff on time and on budget.
The project runs through the opposition leader's electorate. He has slammed the government, claiming it hasn't been upfront with residents about key details.
Premier has a recruitment drive. How about an honesty drive? Tell people out there what's going to be built behind their home. The government's behaviour has been like a pack of bastards to these people.
We've been working very closely with residents now for 4.5 years. It is a very complex project, it's a very large project. It's been built in an area that originally wasn't planned to have a freeway go through it.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
A world-class national bushfire lab has been set up at the CSIRO in Canberra to help better prepare for the next natural disaster. State-of-the-art combustion and wind tunnels will be able to simulate the events of Black Summer, allowing researchers to understand how fires behave and what conditions make them worse. Essential information that will be shared with emergency services. There has been a heated exchange between Deputy Labor leader Richard Marles and journalists at a news conference today. The MP took offence at being asked about claims of bullying raised by the late Senator Kimberley Kitching. Mr Marles said the question was poorly timed ahead of her funeral on Monday.
It does seem, as an observer, that you might be using those eulogies to not answer questions, which is a shameful thing to do.
I mean, I profoundly reject what you've just said. I've rarely said it in an interview, but that's offensive.
Penny Wong, who was accused of bullying Senator Kitching, will now attend her funeral, having cancelled a fundraising event. Australian cricket greats have gathered to remember wicket-keeping legend Rod Marsh. He was honoured in his adopted hometown of Adelaide today, praised for living his life with passion, honesty and fun.
For a generation of fans, he was a sporting hero, but for the who's who of cricketing greats at Adelaide Oval this morning, Rod Marsh was so much more than a cricket player.
It's the person, Rod Marsh, that I loved.
The truck driver's son, who grew up playing backyard cricket south of Perth, would go on to play 96 tests for Australia, the first wicketkeeper to score a test century. He was a stalwart behind the stumps, a man of values.
He called them in his book the 10 Commandments, and they included values such as respect, accountability, selflessness, passion and fun.
There were 355 dismissals, but the ones marked down as Court Marsh bowled Lily are part of cricket folklore.
I miss my mate and will keep remembering the good times. He was a one-off. Let's all celebrate a life well lived.
Marsh would become a coach, selector and mentor to a new crop of stars, but for family, he was a loving husband, father and grandfather.
Dad was a hero to many. He's always been mine. And he always will be. Love you, mate.
Marsh penned the Australian victory song Underneath the Southern Cross I Stand, and today, as his casket was carried from the stadium, mourners filed onto the pitch to pay their respects, a sprig of wattle in their hand. Max Futcher, 7 News.
Rest in peace, Rod Marsh. We're now joined by Jane Bunn, who's also at the MCG this evening. And Jane, how is it looking for the big game tonight?
Well, Mitch, there is the odd shower and thunderstorm in the area, but for most of the game, it should be dry. Tonight, we have a weak cool change. It'll start quite oppressive if you're wearing a footy scarf, then turn a bit more refreshing as the night goes on. That is after we reached 29 late this afternoon and felt even warmer in the humid air. Now, tomorrow should be almost 10 degrees cooler. I'll have the full details after sport, Mitch.
OK, we'll see you then. Thank you, Jane. The pressure on prices keeps growing. Ahead, what's next to feel the pinch? The latest insight on beer, wine and interest rates. Also, Australia's unemployment rate hits a 13-year low. Japan rocked by a deadly earthquake. And a first look at Melbourne's new art and music extravaganza. The cost of a pot at the pub could be about to rise. Brewers and publicans say they'll have no choice but to increase prices to cover higher taxes and production costs.
During 2 years of on-off lockdowns, there's been little for pub owners to celebrate. $2 billion in lost beer sales, compounded by rising costs.
Whether that's staff or whether that's electricity bills, pubs and clubs, they can't just wear those costs.
The government is considering a cut to the beer excise tax.
We've got the 4th highest beer tax in the world here in Australia.
As part of a package to address cost of living concerns.
Whichever way you look, the cost of living is becoming increasingly challenging for Australians.
And we might soon be paying more to our lenders. Economists say today's unexpectedly strong jobs figures could set the stage for the Reserve Bank to hike interest rates earlier than expected.
ANZ expects the first hike in September, while the NAB and Westpac say a month earlier. The Commonwealth sees the RBA moving even sooner, this June, and all four see the official rate hitting at least 0.75% within a year.
The RBA is going to need to increase the cash rate sooner rather than later.
Australians are deep in mortgage debt, with around $2 trillion in total, the same as our annual GDP. Unsurprising then that a new report shows Melbourne has the 5th least affordable housing in the world. Gemma Acton, 7 News.
Australia's unemployment rate has fallen to 4%, its lowest level in 13 years, with economists warning of growing inflation. 7 News can reveal workers could soon be promised one-off bonuses to help cushion the rising cost of living.
A tale of two leaders in WA in the voices of passers-by. For Premier Mark McGowan and for Scott Morrison,
scumbag.
The Prime Minister laughing it off as he welcomed February's positive jobs figures.
Unemployment is at 4%.
Down from 4.2 with 77,400 new jobs.
I was 5 years old when we last had an unemployment rate this low.
Not quite, it's the lowest rate since 2008 and predicted to go much lower.
We're forecasting Australia's unemployment rate will get to 3.3% by the end of this year.
The state breakdowns: New South Wales 3.7, Victoria 4.2, Queensland 4.3, South Australia 5 and WA 4.1. The biggest turnaround, jobs for women. The female unemployment rate fell to 3.8%, the lowest since 1974, while the rate for men fell to 4.2. As the government finalises its budget, now just 12 days away, which 7 News understands will contain one-off cost of living bonuses for wage earners. The bonuses will be paid before the May election through existing government programs as Labor launches its election advertising, concentrating on jobs, power prices and healthcare.
Australians deserve a Prime Minister who shows up, who takes responsibility and who works with people.
With a swing at Scott Morrison on the way through. Mark Riley, 7 News.
A powerful earthquake has killed 2 people in Japan's northwest. The 7.3 magnitude quake derailed a bullet train and knocked people off their feet. It's the same area where a quake triggered the Fukushima nuclear disaster 11 years ago. Melbourne's nightlife is all set for a winter shake-up. Organisers are promising the new arts festival will transform the CBD and lure 1 million Victorians back to the city.
Lighting up the city after dark.
It's a really significant cultural moment for Melbourne.
12 nights of artists, performers, designers, as well as chefs and winemakers from all over the world taking over the CBD.
It's an absolutely massive program. There's over 200 events, 800 individual artists involved.
Massive art installations will be on display. A laser show over the Yarra, almost a kilometre long, one of the highlights.
It will be like a dream. It will take us to places we never thought we could experience.
1 million Victorians are expected to rise from the comfort of their winter PJs for a night in the city, boosting Melbourne's nighttime economy. The Rising Festival is now 3 years in the making, COVID forcing the cancellation of last year's event after just one day.
It's just a whole lot richer for it. We've learnt a lot and we just can't wait to share this incredible festival with you.
It begins on June 1 at the Sydney Myer Music Bowl. Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Superannuation funds are being rattled by the global chaos, but financial experts say we can learn from history to weather the storm. The details are next on 7 News. Also ahead, 3 men charged over an alleged kidnapping in Melbourne's east, and how lockdowns have impacted on crime in Melbourne. 3 men have been charged over an alleged kidnapping in Melbourne's east. Police were called to a Noble Park property after reports of an assault. 2 male victims were taken to hospital to have their injuries treated. The 3 men have been charged with several offences, including armed robbery, false imprisonment and intentionally causing injury. Victoria's tough COVID restrictions and a hesitancy to go back out post-lockdowns have contributed to crime across the state dropping by almost 13%.
Less use of public transport, people tend to stay closer to home, people continue to work from home. So that, I think, has made a difference.
There were fewer cars stolen, home break-ins, burglaries and street robberies in 2021. There was also a sharp reduction in drug dealing and trafficking. Strong employment figures have nudged the Australian dollar higher. Here's Gemma Acton with the markets.
Thanks, Peter. After such a strong rally on global share markets overnight, there was really only one way for Aussie shares to go today, and that was up. The ASX 200 adding 76 points to close at 7,251. Buy now, pay later challenger Zip added 10%, while it was also a strong session for major miners. Helped by strong employment numbers, the Aussie dollar has pushed back above 73 US cents, while oil prices are steady now after further recent falls. Meanwhile, one more number from today's jobless report caught our eye, and that was the underemployment rate. That looks at people who are working but want more hours. That has also reached a fresh multi-year low. Peter.
Gemma Acton reporting. The New South Wales Premier has welcomed his 7th child with wife Helen. Dominic Perrottet says both mum and baby are doing well. They've named the little girl Celeste Grace. First, it was higher food and petrol prices. Now the war in Ukraine is taking its toll on the retirement savings of Australians. Super funds have lost value, but investors are being urged not to panic.
As bonds plummeted, so too did global stocks,
which are down about 10% since all this started.
Superannuation has also taken a hit, though less of a blow.
Super's down about 5 or 6% for most members.
A world away in Brisbane, retiree Peter O'Gorman is alert but not alarmed. He's playing the long game.
They've been going down and up and down and up, and when you're talking super, you're talking long term anyways.
Funds have their own battle armour, diversification.
Super isn't all invested in shares. All your eggs aren't in one basket.
Cashing out now could crystallise your losses.
We need to stay in our seat and wait to ride the storm.
There were so many people during 2020 with COVID who went to cash, and many of them are still there. And they're the people who have been worse off.
Retirement savings will get a boost in July when employer super contributions are raised from 10% to 10.5%. With disaster on home soil too, many households could use the extra cash, but most are not able to access their super.
In order to access your super under financial hardship, you need to be on government support for about 6 months.
The market's instability highlighted again today as Australian shares jumped to a 1-month high. Alex Lewis, 7 News.
Sport is next with Tim Watson at the MCG. Tonight, Tim, traditional rivals are set to square off.
That's right, Mitch. On a warm night too, we'll get our first look at Michael Voss's Blues. Coming up, the final word on how Carlton can break a decade-long hoodoo against the Tigers. A trio of new Hawks set to take flight with a new skipper at the helm after a COVID shock. The Demons win soured with a premiership defender on crutches, and catches win matches. The Aussies stumble against Pakistan. Welcome back to the MCG, and for the first time in 8 years, the Tigers and Blues have taken a back seat to the start of the season. Returning to Chief Football Reporter Tom Brown. And Tom, there's no shortage, though, of intrigue tonight.
Tim, is very much shaped tonight as a midfield battle, like often, but you've got now for Carlton, Shearer and Hewitt, who really complement Cripps with some massive skill in the midfield. The big question, one of them, is whether Hewitt will tag Dustin Martin. Of course, Dusty has had on-field one of his best off-field. It's been a very, very difficult time for Dusty with the tragic passing of his dad. For Richmond, Grimes ready to go after that thumb surgery. Nankervis got out of isolation with his COVID protocols about 18 hours.
The wound's healed really well and he's functioning really well. He's had 3 full sessions now, so we're really confident he'll be 100%. Well, he's been able to limit the training. Nank will be up and ready to go today, no problem.
Georgie Hewitt, Adam Chera, we feel got the midfield depth to be able to take it up to Richmond tonight, and all 3 or 4 of them will go through Dustin at some stage.
And Tommy, a warning from the AFL, 2 ahead of Buddy's big milestone.
Buddy trained behind closed doors just to be very cautious with COVID protocols this afternoon. But this was Gil McLaughlin one-on-one, giving specific instructions to fans about running on for the 1,000th goal.
Understand the emotion, understand why it would be appealing. However, it is going to be a very expensive exercise as you do, so don't run onto the field.
And Tim, just finally tonight, I can reveal in a very big concussion story that the AFL head doctors, Michael McDeasy and Rachel Elliott, are in the process of going to all the clubs, giving players specific warnings about the potential long-term impacts from concussion. The AFL legally getting on the front foot, dispatching their head doctors to the clubs this week. Tim?
Thanks, Tom. Well, already under siege today, the Bulldogs could be dealt a blow on the injury front. Mitch Cleary, the Dogs have kept a very keen eye today on their skipper.
Well, Tim, Marcus Bontempelli was in for scans this morning on that ankle injury he sustained last night. As of right now, the Dogs are sweating on the outcome of those scans ahead of the game next week. Bailey Dale also in for a check-up today, along with Caleb Daniel on a lower leg injury. At Hawthorn, they'll be without skipper Ben McAvoy and Luke Bruce through COVID protocols. Jaeger O'Meara to captain them on Sunday as they look to unveil the next wave of their youngsters. Hawthorn's midfield unleashing generation next.
3 blokes who are going to play their first game for
Former Pies ruckman Max Lynch locked in to face North Melbourne, along with exciting teenage draft pair Connor McDonald and top 10 pick Josh Ward.
They haven't put a foot wrong. They've been really exciting. They're both crafty players. I think they're going to be super players for this footy club.
The Roos to unveil their own top talent in number 1 selection, Jason Horne-Francis, after a blistering summer.
What do you think, Nan?
Hello, my boy. big congratulations.
Jake Stringer unable to prove his fitness to face Geelong, coming off a lingering groin injury, and still no certainty for next week.
Medically, he's back fit. He just hasn't done a huge amount of work.
Melbourne's win in the grand final rematch coming at a cost, with Christian Salem hit by another left knee injury.
A bit concerned leading into the game. I saw it was heavily strapped at training on Tuesday.
Yeah, that was just a bit of a separate incident. But yeah, this was obviously completely different.
Fears the dashing halfback will miss multiple weeks as fellow defender Joel Smith arrived for a checkup on his thumb. A torn plantar fascia keeping Jake Leavers sidelined and racing the clock for next week.
He hasn't been doing the Rob Harvey jumping off benches. He's just been doing his normal training. But, you know, it's, as I said, it's a good thing that it's happened now, and it gives us a chance to get him right.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
To cricket now, Pat Cummins' tactics have come under fire after Australia failed to bowl Pakistan out in the second test in Karachi. The Aussies needed 8 wickets on the final day, but drop catches from Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne proved costly, chasing 506 for victory. Pakistan survived 171 overs for a draw. The decisive third test starts in Lahore on Monday. Cameron Smith says there's no reason he can't become Australia's next major champion, starting with the Masters next month.
This one's given me a lot of confidence, obviously to prove myself against 144 of the best guys in the world,
and come out on top was pretty cool. There's no reason why I can't go on and win one of those big ones.
Smith moved up to number 6 in the world after his victory at the Players' Championships. Leading trainer Annabelle Neesham treated her top runner Zaki to a dip in the bay ahead of a massive Saturday of racing for the stable.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the biggest day we've had. Excited at the moment. It'll be nerve-wracking. Saturday mornings normally when my nerves kick in.
Neesham also has runners in Sydney's Golden Slipper, with Zaki favourite for the All-Star Mile at Flemington. Coverage all day on 7 from midday. And Mitch, I really like Carlton's midfield tonight, but despite all that, I still think the Tigers will win.
Same here. Thank you very much indeed, Tim. Now, Jane Bunn is also inside the G tonight, and Jane, it's turning cooler overnight.
Mitch, it'll turn a bit more refreshing here at the G in the next hour or two. Then it warms up again on the weekend. The details are next.
Hello, I'm Angela Cox. Tonight at 10:40, live to Ukraine as the world reacts to atrocities in Mariupol. Australia's housing crisis, the most expensive regions revealed, and how unemployment is falling as the cost of living soars. Gemma Acton explains. Join me at 10:40 tonight for the latest from 7 News.
Hello again from the MCG, where it turned warm and very humid this afternoon. There's local showers and thunderstorms in the area, but for most of the game, I'm expecting it to be dry. After a low of 18, there was a bit of cloud this morning with the odd shower and storm. Then the temperature rapidly rose, reaching 29 late this afternoon. A weak cool change is set to bring a bit of refreshment here this evening. Here are the showers and thunderstorms moving across Victoria. Lots of them before dawn, a bit of activity this morning and early afternoon. Then the storms increased again in the late afternoon. The trough line shows where the cool change is up to. Temperatures drop behind that line, now only in the southwest so far, and it is only a weak change. The trough is producing the hit and miss showers and storms, and there is a cold front that only just clips Victoria's south. It's overnight into early tomorrow. So, we're not feeling the full force of this front, just a glancing blow. It'll bring a cooler wind for tomorrow. We'll feel a bit different from our recent weather. And the cool spell, it's only brief as the next high quickly moves in for a warm and sunny weekend. But if you're after a proper cool change, one that actually gets rid of the high humidity, that is likely to hit us mid next week. A stronger front that even brings snow to the Alps. Around the nation tomorrow, a brief light shower in Brisbane. Sydney has cloud building ahead of late showers and storms. Lots of sunshine in Adelaide and Perth. To Victoria, there are different conditions from north to south. The front's effects are felt on and south of the ranges with low cloud and drizzly showers. So it's grey and wet at times, but it doesn't add up to much. And it lasts into the evening in East Gippsland. North of the divide, there's bright sunshine all day and a cooler breeze than we experienced today. Closer in, it looks grey for much of the time. Drizzly showers in the morning and afternoon. The warmest we'll do is only 23, so a big reduction from today. The city, 21 tomorrow. Torquay, it's only 19. To the 8-day outlook, it's only a short cool spell on Saturday. Warmth and sunshine are back. We'll jump straight back up to 28 on a bright and sunny Saturday. Sunday, 25, lots of sunshine. Monday, back up to 29 in that sunshine. Tuesday, 26, that is before a big strong cold front comes through in the afternoon. Temperatures will plummet. There'll be a big burst of showers. 5 to 20, even 25 millimetres in a few spots of Melbourne. That'll clear out on Wednesday morning, and have a look at those temperatures. Cool overnight, cool during the day for the rest of the week. So cooler tomorrow, just 21. Cloudy, drizzly showers passing through. They'll clear out as the next game of footy starts, and that is tomorrow night. Mitch, looking forward to it.
Same here. Saints versus the Pies, Jane. Look out. Thank you very much. And that's the way it is this Thursday, the 17th of March. Thanks for your company. Stay with us now as we take you to the Carlton Richmond blockbuster at the MCG. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.